In all past builds, when it came to the Parashock, it was one of my favorite ad-crushing builds, but the way the game has changed now with the champion barriers and the more difficult Nightfalls at Legendary and Master, Parashock Ultra is just retired when it comes to those. It just doesn't work out. Even with the artifact buffs, it's just so weak that you really just don't stand a chance with anything when it comes to the Super. It's really just a trash mob base game all the way to hero mode. Past hero, it just doesn't work out. But however, if you aren't doing Legendary and Master Nightfalls, it really crushes in those. But let's start with the stats first, and we'll talk more about this as we go along. So always go 7-up mobility, 7-up recovery. Those are just staple stats you need to have on every build if you want to have the most fluency and just be able to crush and push adds more and more, basically. Just hopping ad to ad with that 7 mobility, getting around tougher adds is just really beast to have that mobility and that recovery. It's 7 and up. You can just start at 7 and up. If you want to do more, that's up to you. There's many forms that comes in the Parashock. You can do 8 recovery, you can focus more on strength, more on discipline. It all comes down to your chess piece and what you choose. And like I said, since I don't recommend this for Legendary and Master type Nightfalls, you can really do what you want to with this build because its base game pretty much is where it tops out at. You may notice the 3 resilience that I have. Well, I found out if you use the boss melee counter that you learn in Guardian Bootcamp Episode 1, mixed with 2 major resist mods, you can actually survive a stomp to the ground from an unstoppable ogre at hero and down difficulties. The only situation that I've ever found where resilience kind of helped me out. Now let's move to the armor piece and see what we got. So I'm using my 1.0 Crown of Tempest, the one that Xur sold a long time ago. Light reactor with fusion reserves. Copy the stats the best as you can. I have a recovery mod on it as well, giving me 30 recovery. So if you're using a 1.0 or a 2.0, just copy it the best you can. You may actually have better stats on your version than I do, but to be able to maintain the 7-up mobility recovery, it needs to be around that. Crown of Tempest charges all of your abilities when you get an ability kill. It's meant for situations like this. If you wear a Crown of Tempest, your main job is clear out trash mobs, keep them off everybody while they do objectives, and that's what it's really good at. You can have a 28-second super with top tree, or on 20 seconds with bottom tree. Moving on to the gauntlets, copy the stats like I said, best as you can. I'm using Enhanced Fusion Loader, a mobility mod to maintain the 6+ traction to get 7 mobility, Enhanced Impact Induction. If you're at a tier 6 with Rising Storm, it's 18 seconds off your grenade. Tier 7 and up gives you 16 seconds, but it all changes depending on what tier you're choosing to do. Without Rising Storm, Tier 6 gives you 8 off, Tier 7 gives you 6 seconds off. Once I find the 2.0 Hive Barrier, that's going to replace the Hive Invigoration that you see. Moving on to the chest piece, I'm using the Iron Banner chest piece. It has really good stats, and I can also use Dreambane mods and things like that on it, so it's really beneficial to have all opulent gear, except for your chest piece to have different variations. That way you can use Dreambane stuff, or whatever you want to use, basically. Here's some just examples you could use. You could go Fusion Reserves, you can go Breach Refractor, you can go with Supreme Nightmare Breaker on it, or you can use a Dreambane mod, or whatever you want to use. Unstoppable Melee if you're doing Hero and Down Nightfalls, or if you want to use Rocket Reserves. There's so many possibilities with this. Paragon mod, one gives you 20 seconds off your rift, so if you want to get the Arc Soul back, a Discipline mod to hit 7, a Strength mod to hit 4, or if you want to use a mobility mod to go up to 8 mobility to get that overall fluency. It's just completely up to you and your chest piece, matching it out however you want. Just copy those stats. When it comes to my leg piece, I have 2 different versions. There's the version that you see right here that has that resilience, a little bit of mobility, and then recovery, and then 20 discipline. I'm using traction, a rocket reserve. I can pick up 4 or 5 if I'm using a field prep rocket, and then Hive repurposing. And then there's the second version that I use that has more mobility focus. The only difference in this one is I have 19 discipline and the other one has 20, and that little bit of a payoff can actually matter because watch when I switch them out, none of my stats change except for the resilience and that tier 6 grenade. Every time I change it, nothing else changes. I just go to 3 resilience and then I go to 6. So though some stats may not look as good as another piece, it all comes down to after you masterwork everything and where your stats are sitting, that 1 point can pay off. Now on to the bond. A solar bond is the most beast bond you can have on really any guardian because you get recuperation, you can get enhanced ashes to assets that I'm stacking with my light reactor. Hive armaments goes with any kind of elemental affinity, and I'm using another major resist mod. I don't really use finishers ever. I think they're kind of a waste versus other stats and perks you can put to balance things out with. Finishers in my opinion are kind of gimmicky. They're not really that useful when it comes to other things that are possible on builds. For the remainder of this video, I'm going to show you how it beasts out on hero type Nightfalls, where it tops out at. I'm going to be using a different variation. I'm going to put a strength mod on the chest piece to give me a minute 8 stock charge time, not counting the Crown of Tempest. I'm going to be using also an unstoppable melee, and I'll kind of run through the build real fast so you can see exactly what I'm using. The only thing that changed was I'm putting the strength mod on the chest piece and I'm choosing to use some fusion reserves to give me a little bit more fusion rifles, and then also using the rocket scavenger, and then things you saw earlier on the bond, the enhanced ashes to assets, stacking with that light reactor. Now let's get going and see what this build can do. You'll notice a lot of hive repurposing combos that I do, such as this, rocket out, and then grenade right after the rocket, so I get it right back. I'll slow that down so you can see it again. Rocket travels, grenade throw, get it right back when I bust the shield. One of the teammates on this team is racing me in a kill challenge, so of course, I'm always game for those. So keep an eye. He's always thinking he can run ahead and I guess kill ads, but I have my own tactics as well, and running ahead doesn't actually mean you'll ever outslay somebody, because tactics are really what matters when it comes to speed killing. So I'll hop right in the middle, I'll start making recuperation orbs in case things hit the fan. At this level of Nightfall, Parashock will crush any build, I promise you, especially on the Knocker's Nightfall. I touched that recuperation orb, that Knight, got that kill clip on him, so start pushing in a little bit further. About to down him with that grenade combo, and then I'm just going to pop down a healing rift, get my arc soul going, and then take out the back 3 ads. And then in Guardian Bootcamp Episode 1, I talk about that little cubby hole you can throw that grenade in when you fall down. You can take out every ad in the wink of an eye. I stay back and kill this Knight, and this is where Fill Prep Cluster will always rain on every ad in the Knocker's Nightfall especially. So I'll throw those out, perfect hit, making sure my rockets are always landing. That high handling allows me to get it just that much more accurate, and that alloy casing reload is really clutch on here as well. You're going to see a lot of rockets flying in this Nightfall, especially when I proc hive armaments, and when I get my super back to keep procking my grenade recharge because of the Crown of Tempest. Take out these 2 dudes. He's using Mountaintop and Recluse, which I don't recommend when it comes to Legend and Master. I guess it's okay in Heroes type Nightfalls, but when it comes to speed killing, I'm sorry, but Recluse is just going to get left behind on console. You only get 18 meters of range with that. And then Mountaintop is like, it's okay, I guess, but not nearly as good since the Lunafaction nerf. I'm sure I got a ton of thumbs down just now crapping on the Recluse and Mountaintop, but I promise you, from my experience, Recluse just isn't a speed killer. You can pair it with anybody in this game that knows how to speed kill, and they will crush that gun over and over again. It has its limitations, and on console, it just doesn't do the kind of work that it does on PC, and it's really due to the range fall off that it has. It's just not that usable. Now watch how my super meter climbs drastically because of enhanced ashes mixed in with the Crown of Tempest recharge, then have a Rising Storm melee to top it off even more, another grenade back within 8 seconds. So the recharge rate on Crown of Tempest is beast on hero type Nightfalls. Like I said, on Legendary Master, it won't be pushing nearly this fast. It just doesn't have that capability. Fill Prep Cluster rockets, hive repurposing. Now I got ammo from hive armaments. Throw another rocket out, blast all these dudes up. Have another Rising Storm melee to charge my grenade. A little bit of mobility doing that backwards fall where I didn't take nearly the amount of spray as I would have with a lower mobility value. Little subtleties like that are what make it pay off. I know there's still a lot of non-believers when it comes to mobility, and it really takes somebody playing with it for a few weeks and then going back to low mobility to realize the benefit that it really adds for you, because it's something you can't just tell somebody. They have to actually experience it, learn tactics using it, and then when you don't have that mobility, you notice that those tactics are no longer at your fingertips. I noticed it so much when I first started building out Armor 2.0. There were just like some jump heights that I weren't able to reach, so like either to do like rocket shots on top of ledges that ads were sitting on top of that I was falling down from. It's just things that happen that you know when it isn't happening anymore. You know that if you would have had the mobility, that tactic would have been right back where it used to be when you used to do these strategies all the time. And that's really the best that I can explain it. There's really no other way to really just tell somebody mobility is awesome. It's just that trial and figuring it out and then going back and be like, oh, okay, now I am a little bit quicker. My strategies are a little bit more smoother now. And here's a Fill Prep Sleepless that you're about to see dumping all these waves of ads, which is another reason why I don't like low blast, because I've tried low blast rockets on these situations and it only kills half of the ads every time I throw it at those type ads that spawn from Knockers, especially on Legendary and Master when you need all the blast you can to get the max amount of damage. By max amount of damage, I mean the outer radius of your blast is that much more powerful because it has more radius to blast with, you know what I mean? So if you have low blast radius, you only have so much blast that it'll do, and then you start getting damage fall off because it just can't reach out far enough. So when you're blasting all those Knocker's ads that come out, the ads that are farther away are getting hit with way more damage than they are with that low blast. So just because you can get Demolitionist and other perks on rocket launchers doesn't necessarily mean they're that great when it comes to the most difficult activities. You'll see right here the alloy casing reload gives you 30 more points towards your reload. So it gives you that much faster reload, so when she spawns those ads, I'm already ready to throw another rocket back to back to back. So in situations where I'm not able to proc the field prep, I still have fast reload regardless. And it doesn't matter where I throw these rockets, the blast is just so incredible that it's already going to take everything out. Enhanced Ashes to Assets right here with the Crown of Tempest, topping my super off. Every time there are 4 waves of thrall coming out that back wall, it's going to spawn acolytes, so always be ready for that. Get ready to throw grenades at the doors on opposite sides, or super over there, whichever you want to do, but always be prepared for those rockets and for that yellow knight to be coming back out. When it comes to clearing ads, there's 2 roles. You can either boss melt or you can ad clear. And here's the field prep cluster rocket right here. Watch how fast the reload is when I just crouch and jump over and over again. Keep getting those rockets back in to prepare for every wave that she spawns in and immediately crush them back down. So if you're building for boss melt, that's one thing, but there should be at least one person on your team that's built out for ad clear because it makes everybody else's job easier and keeps your team safe. But like I said, I don't recommend Parashock if you're doing legendary or anything above that. It just doesn't play like you're seeing right here. Hero is the max where it can just beast at. If you were to do anything above that, it would have trouble killing even acolytes and things like that. So I don't recommend it for that. But if you mix the right weapon loadout, rocket launcher and fusion rifle for speed clearing, you'll dominate your team when it comes to ad clearing, and everybody will appreciate you having that loadout when it makes their job much, much easier. And that's the outcome of that, and that is why Parashock Ultra will still live on, but it still won't live on at the same time because Bungie's got it nerfed into the ground, and it seems like they just gave Void classes the love this DLC. Hopefully next DLC they'll focus more on Solar and more on Arc, and it'll feel like a totally new game just because of other things you'll be able to build out with. But that is it, Guardian. And like I said, you may have better rolled stats, like if you had Raid Gear or Leviathan Raid Gear with 60 plus stats, you might be able to hit extra tiers, but that is basically a building block of where you need to have your stats around to be able to reach 7 mobility, 7 recovery, and around the recharge rates of your discipline, your strength, your intellect, and things like that. So just copy that the best that you can. I still love Parashock Ultra. It's still my go-to for Menagerie or anything on the moon or anything like that. But when it comes to difficult and harder activities, the Void, it's just got so much love right now. Oppressive Darkness is crushing it with the Warlock. I'm going to be moving on to the Titan next and start reviving some older builds. So hit subscribe. Stay tuned for more content. If you want to support the channel at teespring.com/Rustophilis or paypal.me/Rustophilis, I highly appreciate it. Or if you want to join our B squad and become an ultimate supporter, I highly appreciate all of you who view and who support the channel, Guardians. So y'all take it easy, and I'll see you next time.
In space.